Welcome back, my friends, to the Moto Guzzi show that never ends. It's a hot day today, so Sasha, the Guzzi dog, is sheltering in the shade, so I don't want to bring her out where it's warm. But she says hi. So what's happening today? Well, it's oil change time. The bike has done 1,000 miles since the last oil change, so we are going to take a look at the oil. I went for about 100-mile run last night and came back and took the plugs out and let her drain overnight, and this is what we've got. Engine oil is very black again, very black, not as black as diesel oil, but there's a lot of what I think is carbon in there. Looks like carbon, smells like carbon, tastes like carbon. And I'm going to do another video on what I think the cause is. Now the gearbox oil was replaced as well with a supposedly high quality synthetic. I'm not seeing any debris in the bottom, which is a good thing. This oil is dark because it has a dye in it, a purple dye. Now if you happen to be in Canada or North America, you'll know what oil that is. Supposedly a high quality synthetic oil. It's a 7590, which is as close to the 90 grade that Moto Guzzi originally specified. But as I look at it in the sun, I don't know if you can see, I can see a sheen on it, a metal particle type sheen on it. I can see that. Let's have a look at the plug now. The magnetic plug on these is on the gearbox. It's not on the drain. So what I'm seeing is a build up on the magnetic plug right there, which wasn't there before. Admittedly, she's done a few miles. The last oil change was done at an interval of about 600 and something miles. And now, what was it? It was over 100 for the first one, and then just over 600. So the previous oil had done 500, or roughly 550 miles. This oil has done 1,000, and there's quite a build-up, and there's metal particles in the oil that I can see. And not only that, but the back of the bike is oily because it's blowing oil out of the gearbox oil breather. Now the previous oil change, it did it to begin with, and then it sort of settled down. But this one has been blowing it out consistently from day one up until yesterday evening. Yeah, I mean, look at that, that's quite thick on the end. So I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with the fact that it's throwing oil out the breather. I do have a bit of a weep on the rear end from there, from the joint where the swing arm tube and the drive shaft tube, same thing, join the final drive, and I'm prepared to live with that. I just give it a wipe. It's not significant. It's not a significant leak. I'll fix that in the winter. This I am a bit concerned with. This is a very expensive oil, supposed to be the best, but they all say that, don't they? I'm not going to name it other than what I've done already. If you can't get it in your part of the world, it's of no concern anyway, but yeah, I'm not going to use it again. Now the engine oil, I've always used JSO specified oil in this bike, not synthetic, because it doesn't have an oil filter, so the only way to keep your oil clean is to change it often, and if you're going to go for synthetic at synthetic prices, it gets expensive. Now the oil that I normally use, I've looked at the spec sheets on it, and it has a ZDDP, which stands for zinc Donald Duck phosphate. Don't ask me what diacyl or something or other. I don't know what the 2D stand for, but anyway, old-fashioned oils had high zinc in them, and what happens is when the engine reaches a certain temperature, the phosphate in the ZDDP molecule is deposited as some sort of compound on the metal parts of the engine, which the most important place being the flat cam followers. So that's the reason I use it, and also for areas like the rocker arms and stuff like that. Now, I used to use a diesel oil which had high zinc in it, but due to changes in the regulations, the diesel oil has had its zinc reduced to about 800 parts per million. So I don't use that anymore. So I use specialist motorcycle oil. In actual fact, it's racing oil, but that's okay. It's not designed to last a long time, but I'm not using it for a long time, am I? Now, I just happened to run out of that particular oil, but I did have another motorcycle oil of the correct viscosity, which is 2050. It has a lower ZDDP value of just over 1,000. And that's pretty much all the information I could get from them. And it's JSO rated, JSO MA2, which this engine doesn't need because it doesn't have a wet clutch and gearbox, and lubricated by the same oil as the engine. You could run this on a JSO MB, which is engine only. And there's the MA, which is engine and gearbox, and then the MA2, which is a more sophisticated engine and gearbox. Don't ask me to explain it all anyway. You don't see a JSO MA very often anymore, not the places where I go to buy oil. It's all JSO MA2. I don't think I've seen a JSO MB, but if I could, I'd probably buy it. So anyway, I'm not going to use this oil again. I'm going to use the 1400 parts per million zinc DDP oil in it again, and that's what I'm going to continue to use. A lot of classic motorbike restorers use that oil. The days of buying good old Duckham's Q2050 motor oil are over, because that doesn't really exist anymore. There are at least one oil manufacturer that puts green dye in their oil to make it look like Duckham's. I don't know. Maybe even Duckham's exists. It doesn't exist in Canada, I don't think. But anyway, oil's an emotive subject. I don't really want to get too involved in it. I've got something which I think will work. Looking at the sump plug on the engine, it looks a little bit healthier than the gearbox. There's just a tiny little debris on there. Very, very little, and it's soft. So I'm happy that the engine oil did its job. I'm not worried about the fact that I used a different oil this last time. and I'll happily use it again if I can't get my preferred oil. So yeah, that's my update. Now what I'm going to do about the gearbox is I'm not going to use this this stuff again. I'm going to go for a different type of synthetic. I'm going to go for an ester based synthetic in this gearbox, which is supposed to stick to things better. That's the best description I can come up with. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the oil game, and yeah, whatever. It's all down to the type of base oil, and there's only, I believe, 4 suppliers of base oil to the industry, and I think the biggest is, well, the big 2 are Exxon and Chevron. I don't know. I can't remember the others. So all your base oil comes from one of 4 companies, no matter which oil you buy. And all your additives come from 5 companies. There's 5 companies that make oil additives. So all your super duper oils are just a cocktail. And if you want to look at it another way, whatever company sells you the oil, they're just like a bartender mixing up a cocktail. And you know, it's really for the expert to decide, not for an armchair expert to decide what oil to put in. And I just kind of go with a recommendation from somebody that I believe. I wouldn't go so far as to say trust, but somebody who's giving good information, and they are out there, and I recommend that people watch the YouTube channel, The Oil Geek. I think it's called The Oil Geek. But he's a tribologist, and he seems to know his stuff. He's worked in racing for quite a few years, and worked for different oil companies, and he's got a lot to say about oils. What I think is good advice. But anyway, I don't want to draw a lot of adverse comments. I mean, it's up to you. Make your own mind up. But I'm not happy with this black oil from the engine, and I'm not happy with the particles I'm seeing from that rather expensive synthetic gear oil. So I'm trying a different type of synthetic. I'm trying the ester synthetic, and this one is going to be the good old-fashioned mineral oil with high ZDDP, an old-fashioned oil, if you like. So there we go. Oh, Sasha the Guzzi dog has come back to see us, see who I'm talking to, and probably for a biscuit. So it's goodbye from him, goodbye from Sasha the Guzzi dog. Keep the rubber on the road, keep the shiny side up, and I will talk to you next time. Goodbye. Thanks for sticking around.